I believe we're ready. I believe it is time. Hello, No Name, how do you do? Okay. Just have to do the do here. This is great. This is the greatest way that you can begin, isn't it? I'm doing all right. Living life as life is living life to the fullest extent I can muster, frankly. So yeah. I saw. Okay. How are we gonna start this? It's been a little bit of a time. It's been a time since I've done Draconian Discourse. It's been a while. I mean, it tends to be a pretty time. What's the word? Time consuming affair, and while I enjoy it, oh wow, my GPU is really broken, isn't it? This is why I can't do things. It's pegged at 28 degrees Celsius. It's not normal for a 3090. It's obviously not working. I thought that restarting would fix it, but evidently not. I wonder if that's a driver side error. But anyhow, yeah, been a little while since I've done a Draconian Discourse. It tends to be a little bit time consuming, but also just because I've I don't know, just life gets in the way, and so I'm gonna go ahead and start doing a bit of that now. So context, obviously, iDubbbz uploaded a content cop for the first time in bloody years, and so obviously it's, you know, a big thing. And I suppose I don't know. I don't know if there's much need for any additional preamble, other than what exactly? Yeah, see, I'm in the bottom right. This is a good place for me. Okay, I think I'm good. I think I got everything set up. I don't know. It's funny because it's like, oh yeah, I haven't done a stream of this in actually at least 6 months or something like that, I think. I could be wrong about it. I don't know. But yeah, Content Cop H3. As you can see, there is quite the wow. That's even more since the last time I checked. It was like half and half before, and now it's like definitely overwhelming. I mean, if you get 50-50 like and dislike ratio, then that's definitely bad. And obviously, this is only with the people who can what's it called? When you have to install the like Chrome extension or whatever in order to actually get this to work. So obviously this is a pretty intense little setup here. Like this might not even be accurate necessarily. So I don't know. Either way, that's a lot. Pretty impressive, I'd say. So my context for this, I suppose, for whatever I'd like to provide here, for what it's worth, I'm massively out of the loop when it comes to current events on this rubbish. I think most people are, frankly. Yeah, it's quite an insane dislike ratio there. You must think that, well, it must have been a quite egregious display, and you know, I've only made it about like 13 minutes in, and it's like, well, he's made a good point in the very least, and so I don't know necessarily what I was expecting, but I don't know. I think most people are kind of out of the loop at this point because most people don't tend to. I don't know, people got stuff to do. They're not necessarily going to be spending a lot of their time doing, you know, all the internet dramas anymore. We just left that in a previous time, left that back into 2016, 17, maybe a little bit in 18, but mostly left it away. So I don't know. So I have been like, for the longest time, I've actually been listening to the H3 podcast for a really long time. I think I started in like 20 I don't know, 18 and 19, something like that. And then I kind of continue to go on, and I'm massively behind in like all of my podcasts. I think I'm only in like 2021 or something, so I'm like obviously 4 or so years behind. But so I'm missing loads of context. So I want to stipulate that my perspective on this is going to be a little bit skewed, in the sense that it's like I'm not necessarily going to be able to be well versed in a lot of the context for what's being talked about during this, and so hopefully I'll be able to make it through this relatively. I don't know. Hopefully I'll be able to make good time on it, because I don't want to necessarily be doing this all day or forever. So hopefully I'll be able to make good time. I'm thinking maybe we'll shoot for 50%. Because that's a little bit, I don't know, it's difficult with the format, because it's obviously, there's a lot of things that you can go on and on and on about when you're talking about densely packed moral ground here. But that's why I prefer to do it, and so it, ends up being quite a long time, but we're gonna get through it. So yeah, I suppose there's not really much need for any additional rambling here. I think that's basically the long and short of my introduction to this. Needless to say, I've been wondering for a long time. I suppose that's kind of the context that I could provide. Is I've been wondering for a long time, listening to the H3 podcast, because I think Ethan specifically has had a long history on YouTube, and I don't know, had a very interesting arc that he's gone on, because he started out like, I seem to recall like sort of hearing people talk about like, oh, I miss old Ethan, it's not the same and whatnot, but then I actually went back after hearing that he took down his and I think this happened a couple years ago, but he took down his interviews with Jordan Peterson that were around 2017 or something like that, and I went and re-listened to them, and it's like, you are a completely different person. It's just remarkable how quickly things changed, because I think there was something about the landscape back then. I don't know, something as a person with Ethan particularly, or I'm not quite certain what it is, but the attitudes are completely different, where I really don't think people are wrong that it's like Ethan has become the people that he makes fun of, but it's like, if Ethan has become the people that he makes fun of, he's now like or the people that he used to make fun of, he's now been outshadowed is what I seem to see about this. I don't know, because I never got around to watching, some of the last 4 years of content from the H3 podcast, because there's frankly a lot of it, and frankly it's difficult to get through because Ethan will go on a pathological rant about something or other, and he's not very well, I don't know, Ida's just going to go on and probably make most of my points for me, but I don't know. I suppose we'll see. It's just I've been wondering for a long time, like, given the fact that Ethan and Gila, Gila was I'm pretty sure born and raised in Israel, and then the two of them lived there for a time as they were starting out their life together, and then both of them have dual citizenship and everything, and so they've got family over there and everything. So I was wondering, it's like, if you apply some of the same standards that both of them would apply, more so Ethan, because he's the one who would go on those sort of rants and talk about politics and all of that. If you apply a lot of those same principles that he would apply in that scenario, then you would end up kind of, if you were to apply that to Israel and the entire context of Israel as a whole, I don't know, it's like, you would not be pro-Israel if you believe this in regards to Israel, but since you lived there, would you believe something different? Which side of the debate exactly would you land on? And I think we're gonna enter some interesting territory when it comes to this, and I haven't seen much of it so far, but obviously restarting because we want to see the entire thing in context. So without further ado, that's the wrong button. Bowie, that's the thing. This is going to be wild, and it's going to take way too long. 11-minute intro, not too bad. I don't know if I necessarily... Do I want to see this first thing?
Actually, accusing Ethan of killing his dog is maybe
I
too
I
far
I did
because
not
they have
catch the
mobilized
context
such
initially
an
for
insane harassment group that anybody who says any
sounds like
fucking
the
thing,
H3 podcast.
they will attempt to ruin their lives. And once again, I'm the crazy one. It's not bad enough that I have this group of...
See, that kind of standard there of I'll just kind of turn it down a little bit. I think that standard there of like what is it? Hopefully this will be heard decently and it won't be at like too, what's the word? Not too loud or anything. That concept of like what's the word? What did he say there? Like, I'm the crazy one. It's like, I think he applies that to every single conversation that he's in, which is really interesting. I don't know, there's definitely a lot of pathology to dig into here, and I don't even think that all of it is going to be on Ethan, despite the fact, you know, he's got lots of issues that are all in the open, but I do appreciate sort of the show of like, you know, he's retired, the content cop is retired and on his on his bloody...
What's up, everybody?
Okay, is that loud? Is that loud on the streams end?
And a broadcast coming to you live from a cloudy day here in California, Los Angeles. We're live and alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and MBs are having a fantastic one because today's a beautiful day. I have a very important announcement.
I find this...
I watched Ethan Klein's content nuke, and I'm not going to call it context puke as I normally do because the reality of the matter is it was brilliant. Nothing was out of context.
See, I find this interesting. Which part of this do I think about? Where to begin? I don't know. I remember looking skeptically at a lot of the content on Ethan's channel, and being, you know, for the things that I didn't know about, where it's like, oh yeah, here, we're going to show off this creator, look at how scummy this person is, like not the content nukes, but the content courts and things of that nature, where it's like, these are really not put together very well. But it's like things that I didn't really know anything about, that were exploring those, you know, it was like, oh yeah, that was entertaining and gave me a negativity bias against that person. Cool. It's like, yeah, the quartering, you got him good. But then you also see how it's like the moment that he does the exact same thing, just discussing and attempting to bring attention or whatever, you know, coverage of something that I am aware of, I realize how twisted it tends to get with him. It's like, wait a minute, now I don't know if I can actually trust any of your coverage on these other things before. And I mean, he didn't used to be like that. It used to be a very interesting exploration of ideas, discussions, and everything that really does seem has gone by the wayside. It seems as though Ethan is kind of moved from being you know, using other things as a platform by which he can spring off his what's the word? You know, just as a comedic springboard, effectively, to, and I suppose that's more like the Leafy era type of content, 2016 type of stuff, but it seems to have devolved into just using your political opinion as some sort of a club, and responding in that way. You know, there's no attempt to explore and to find the truth. And I mean, it seems to just be worthless entertainment with an underlying pathology of, I hate this person and they're bad and evil. Which I don't really think that provides much value. It's like what entertainment value that it provides is outweighed by the amount of dishonesty and lack of goodwill that comes with the territory of just being a pathological battering ram against people, I suppose. So I do think there's certainly a lot to take from what's the word? A lot to... Do I mean take? I don't know if I mean take, but I don't know. I suppose I'll just move on.
Everything was
Correct.
I am an Islamist, fundamentalist, radical terrorist. I am a...
And I mean, watching this when you're kind of stuck in 2021, like before they even like got a show together, you're like, what happened? What happened? It's Donald Glover like re-entering the room with a pizza and everything's on fire. It's like, what? I thought these people were getting along. No,
vicious anti-Semite. It's true. Most importantly, Ethan is more attractive than me, both physically and also mentally.
I think Ethan is actually more mentally attractive to Hassan, but that's a very low bar. Let's just leave it at that.
Lying about everything, including my glasses. They're fake. He was right about that. That's not even in the content nuke. And
so
he was
sad.
right about that too.
So
How
sad.
did he know everything? How? Wait.
I actually am interested if these are just like, these are all jokes that like, did they actually get real names in order to do this? But like, obviously it's part of the skit, but there's nothing funny or, I don't know. Hassan as an individual is just like there's no spice, there's no flavor. He's just white bread, and it's like I don't know, could use a little anything. I could use literally anything and it would be better. It's like just his presence is just the only personality he's got is in like getting irrationally angry at anything and everything that his eyes come across. It's like this is how you get entertaining, is just by getting pissed off. And it's like beyond that, you're just boring. Like, I don't know. He's trying to put on like some sort of a performance here, and it's just like, all right, yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there's anything there. Like, McFly, you win. It's like knock knock.
Ethan.
Hello.
Wake up, Ethan. Ethan, wake up.
And I don't know how much there's any purpose to.
Wake up, Ethan.
This is no longer a dream. This is a nightmare. Wake up.
Ethan, the dumb bitch is telling you to wake up.
Wake up, Ethan. Wake up. Wake up.
It's like
Ethan,
just
wake
double
up.
speed through this because I don't know what.
Wake up.
There's just no point.
I'm not gonna do a react content yet, chat.
I'm the same. Yo, my phone. Yo, man, let's stop rumors. Wake up.
Ethan, wake up.
And I don't really have anything to say about like any of that. Not exactly. It's just skits. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. Did he actually tear it open?
I didn't plan on making a content cop on H3. It sounds very stupid even saying that. H3 content cop, iDubbbz. Ethan Klein's out of control. And then you should do a content cop on Hassan Piker. Content cop on Sargon of Akkad. If I would imagine this,
I don't
in
know
2016,
what
I would
he's
have been
getting
like,
for.
oh yeah,
getting
if
at
I
with
ever
that
do
one.
that, it's gotta be because I lose the plot. Well, it turns out it's not me losing the plot, it's Ethan. He's the...
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that, like, I'm pretty certain at this point that the vast majority of people who were interested in Content Cop have believed that he lost the plot. And that's not to say that they're correct necessarily, but it is to say that you aren't where you think you're at when the entire audience that you've accumulated is in heavy disagreement with what you're presenting. And I think that this was probably the case with his previous the one where he ended up taking down all the old content and everything, privating, unlisting it, and then being like, well, you can just go on the Google Doc and look at them there. But it's like, I don't know, that there comes a time when you ought to think about what the message is going to mean to the people who you're catering it towards, I suppose. It's not to say that the audience is always right, but there's certainly something that you ought to look around at. It's like, gauge everybody's reactions, read the room a little bit. What is the general position on this? And I mean, this is a good sample size for what people think about this, and it's not looking very good. So I don't know. I think the position on this, as far as I can see, like from his perspective, it's, I don't care what they think. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go with what I really feel is the most, I don't know. I don't know exactly how to put it, because I don't understand the perspective. I don't necessarily want to say, it's like, well, do you believe this? It's like, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. In like I'm meaning in the sense that, like, I don't necessarily think that the word believe means what we say it means, what it, like, what is the definition, you know, define the term there, where it's like, I think you think that, but I don't know if you believe that in a sense. And I think that that's a sort of broad thing that I'm grappling with currently, is like, how do you believe something if it does not possess you, in a sense? Like, but not in the sense of ideological possession, in the sense that, I suppose that's actually a good way to think about it, is that, like, if you're ideologically possessed, then you will not be able to tell who is correct on something, on, well, anything necessarily. And, you know, it's worth listening to somebody else, especially if it's a lot of people. It's like, what did I do wrong? It's worth thinking about. And it's like, well, it turns out that Ethan lost the plot. It's like, in a bizarre twist, no, because I think he has lost the plot in probably every single episode that he's made since however long ago. But it's like, well, I don't know. I'm not quite certain which side I'm going to end up on here, but this is going to be pretty incredible.
The one who fucking attacked first.
My good fucking friends who I stood by after all these fucking
Is it out of sync?
years.
Is that on this end, or is that on my end? That would suck if it were on my end. I wanted to say, when I had initially seen this, because I was stuck 4 years ago, I'm like, Ozempic, like, this is just the silent killer, isn't it? Like, it just looks so bloody unnatural, and it's not because it's necessarily like the drug that does it. It's just what happens when you lose a lot of weight. But it's like, you lose a lot of weight in such a quick amount of time, and it's like, ugh. He just doesn't look like Ethan anymore, and it's so weird. It's not to say that I don't think he's going to be a little bit more healthy, but it's like, what are you? Who are you? I don't know you. It's just so strange. Do you want Ozempic, Adrian? I don't know. I don't know if I'd recommend that. It's I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. How am I to know? What's a good or not a good idea? But it's strange. It's strange, to be sure, because it's like, oh, I don't recognize you. This didn't happen. And I don't know. People change over the course of like 4 years as well. So it's like, well, it could just be that as a part of it. But he does not look natural, and his facial hair looks very odd. I don't know if it necessarily suits him, but that's neither here nor there.
Can't find a spine to speak up.
So go fuck yourself.
I agree.
All right, guys, I'm going to tell you a story about Ethan Klein. I know some of you have been following him, but there's a lot of people who might not.
Didn't he lose weight over time? I don't know. I don't pay attention to him. See, well, I don't really know, but I have a feeling that he's got gobs of money, and he's been willing to spend it on plenty of things, pertaining to his own life before. So I just wouldn't be surprised if he took Ozempic. That's a good thing to clarify. I don't know if he took Ozempic. It just seems plausible because he's never been able to lose the weight himself, like all on his own before. So I don't know. He twitches more prevalent. Either he has stress and anxiety, or he's on something. Maybe in that clip, I don't know if I necessarily saw anything a little more out of the ordinary, but like he's, I don't know. I think I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I think he twitches consistently, like all the time. So I don't know.
Not be familiar with the background, with his podcast.
Oh, there's something that I found interesting about this, but I'm not quite certain as to what. Was this a couple years ago? Okay, wait, because I can sort of pinpoint this. This was within the last like 2 years approximately, because I don't know who like these people are. Yeah, it's like I don't know who these people are, but I know who these people are. So it's like, okay, it wasn't 4 years ago, it was like 2 to 3 years ago. So if that's the entire crew, then they brought on additional people. So this is a lot more recent. So he did lose weight a little bit quicker. I don't know. It would probably be easier for me to just look up and verify this myself personally. Throughout all those videos, I noticed it more blinking, more hand movements. Do you think it's actually been more, or because I don't know. I think it's been generally the same, but my perception could be off. I watched his podcast early on. I noticed he had it. It was minimal then compared to now. Is that actually the case? Like, I don't know. He's always had Tourette's, but I don't know to what degree it's increased or decreased. Hence why I'm a little concerned for him. I don't think it's that out of the ordinary. Because I mean he does have Tourette's, but him doing it more could definitely indicate stress to a certain degree. I'm not certain if I've seen it go more or less as his health or mental health has gone up and down. I haven't kept a keen eye on it. So I think all this negativity has made it more prevalent either. Yeah, like I could definitely see that being the case where I can't imagine that any of your neurological conditions would improve. But Tourette's isn't necessarily like at least his case isn't necessarily debilitating. Autocorrect put either. Oh, okay. That's funny. I was like, I did see that little bit difficult to parse that sentence a little bit. I was like, I think all this negativity has made it more prevalent. I was like, yes, either. Wait, that's generally a negative context. Anyway.
Podcast with what's been going on over the past couple of years.
Old
so
photo.
Ethan, as you know, is a content creator who has a podcast where he says all sorts of outrageous stuff. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes...
See, it's funny. He says, like, outrageous stuff, and both of these are from, like, 20...
Sometimes it's...
Actually, I don't know about this one. I know the Gatsby was a bit from, like, around 2020. Or was it earlier? I'm going to say it every sentence now, no matter the context either. Okay, quit it. That's not good. That's no good. But it's kind of funny that he would say, like, he says outrageous stuff. Sometimes it's funny. It's like, this isn't him saying stuff. This is him doing stuff.
Sometimes it's fun.
I don't know which content court this is on. I don't know if it's like an earlier one or no, if it's on a later one, because I don't really recognize exactly what's going on. This might be fairly recent. I have no bloody clue. But it's like, yes, content court is like awful. They have absolutely no standards whatsoever when it comes to it's a kangaroo court in the greatest sense of the word. Like it's just Ethan as the captain of his ship being the tyrant, and deciding that he's going to go with whatever his preconceived notions of this person is. And I think that's actually what I was trying to get at it, is that it's not an attempt to dig down and to discover the truth. It's an attempt to create a piece, sort of and a philosophical hit piece, if you will, attempting to tear down the essence of a man, whoever the man in question is at this, in whichever case, man or woman. I don't know if he's done it on females before, has he? I don't bloody know. It's just using a club against people who you dislike, and you dislike them for whatever notions, whatever priors that you already had that you don't really think about critically, that you don't question, that you don't. It's not you saying, I'm only going to say what I can say with enough confidence that it convinces me. It's like there's no questioning about even your own. Like, in order to make a good argument, you have to deconstruct it just a million times, and you have to really think hard about it, and you have to pause and consider and think, is what I am saying the right thing to say? Is what I am saying as truthful as it needs to be? And I don't think there's much thought about that goes into this, and I think that's sort of the main issue, and what I was thinking about earlier that I couldn't quite put my finger on. It's like, why you should be able to trust that what you are saying is truthful enough that people will come around, even if they're not quite ready for it yet, or that it didn't hit its intended audience yet. And, playing the long game in that sense, I can't necessarily say that iDubbbz isn't doing that, at least in his mind, but I don't know. There's been things that I've seen within this video that I don't think this stands up to scrutiny, and I think you ought to have put a lot more scrutiny into it than you did. And it's not to say the old content cops were perfect, but I think they were a lot more. They attempted a lot more to get to the truth. In comparison to some of the content that he's put forth, because I'm not really comparing apples to apples here, because I haven't seen the rest of this content cop yet, but I don't know, there's definitely a fall off in intellectual quality, and I think that you can see that in both of their content, really. Ethan used to sit down and talk with people and have fascinating conversations. iDubbbz used to bring as rigorous a case against somebody as he could possibly have without sort of just inherently dehumanizing them in a sense. Now, I don't like that word. See, that's part of the trouble. This is why it's difficult to be truthful, is because every time you make a statement, you might end up saying something that's like, well, no, not quite, and then you have to amend the sentence, and so it's very difficult to do. I'm not quite certain on that. I suppose it's that it was fair in the sense that it wasn't, that there was never a single, there were many points in time where it's like, there's a way out of this. I'm not coming to you to destroy your career. I'm coming to you to improve your life in a sense with the harshest criticism that I can bring forward. And I think that there may be still a certain amount of that idea in this, but I don't know. It being an hour long, I feel like is potentially indicative of the amount of thought that went into it, in the sense that it's not necessarily the length, but the length in context. Lots of the other content cops were so rigorously put together that they didn't have to be much longer. With this one, it's like, is that going to be the case here? Are the points going to be, as meticulous and as truthful as possible? How hard are they going to bite in that sense? I'm not quite certain.
Fucked up. He's had shows with all sorts of different controversial characters. He's had a show with Trisha Paytas. He's had a show with Hassan Piker. In doing so, he's gathered a ton of different audiences. Now, in his podcast with Hassan, Leftovers,
and it's interesting, he didn't necessarily talk about the type of audience that you gather, and maybe it's because it hits a little bit too close to home, because he made edgy content back in 2015 to 18-ish. And therefore he picked up a lot of the a lot of the kinds of people who appreciated that kind of edgy content. And it's like, well, that's certainly a niche that H3 picked up as well along the original points in his career. And I mean, none of the people who watched H3 then appreciate what he makes now. Like, it's as if the entire audience has sort of flipped in that sense. And I never watched the content previous to that. Because I mean, I suppose it wasn't enough for me. Like, I needed that real edgy stuff. I needed that leafy. I need that leaf, man. Blaze it up, right? But I don't know. It's interesting that he doesn't mention that both of their original audiences were a common base of people who were cool with, I suppose, clowning on people. And it seems as though the amount of people that you can clown on now is, well, the pool has become a little bit selective. And I'm not quite certain if the principles are the same anymore. I don't know.
They
we'll
would mostly
on.
talk about surface level progressive shit and make fun of right wingers.
And you're telling me he didn't flick their dick once at least?
Oh, that's 100 shavers. You trans women. I say, oh no!
And it was mostly that until they actually had to reckon with a very serious topic. I would say that Hassan was very well equipped to talk.
See, I think it's quite interesting. Ethan has spent a lot of time. It's not just making fun of like the American political right. It's a disdain for people who he has neither the courage nor the intellectual fortitude to attempt to understand. And that's not just the political right. It's a lot of people. And I think it goes down to the crux of, what is at the bottom of humanity. And I think it's like, psychologically, Ethan does not understand conscientiousness. And I think he has a disdain for it. And I find it interesting because I think, on a psychological level, iDubbbz used to be one of the most disagreeable and conscientious people on YouTube in the sense of just simple, brazen logic, and meticulous criticism. I don't know. It's just interesting to see where the lots have fallen, in a sense. I'm back. I see Ethan has an unhealthy ego. I don't know. I suppose it depends on what you mean by that. I mean, I think he's an elitist in many ways, or at least he's demonstrated elitism in many ways. So it may have something to do with that an unhealthy ego doesn't like that other people can behave in a way that is completely opposite to themselves, and cannot fathom that, but doesn't want to. It's just, I wish you would just stop existing, which is something that 40 minutes into the stream and only 5 minutes into the video, that's the way it be. That is the way it be. I don't know. We'll speculate on egos later, I suppose.
Talk about that topic.
Palestinian people living in the West Bank are subjected.
Oh yeah. So it's like the next point that he's making is that he believes that, well, it certainly is true. Ethan is good at being funny. Ethan is not good. Well, questionable. He's somewhat good at being funny. He's in the sense that he has a very wacky comedic style. He's not good at providing a rigorous case for or against anything politically. And I mean, maybe that's the reason why he finds it so difficult to understand conscientious people, is because they actually believe in standards when it comes to presenting a case on something like that. But I don't know if Hassan is going to provide anything remotely resembling actually being qualified to qualified, quote unquote. It's like, well, what qualifications has anybody got? Like, the qualifications are in the what is the saying, the true idiom? It's not the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, is the original idiom. So I suppose that's what it is. Just like, does it stand to reason what is being presented? Is there something that they missed? Is there something that they didn't? How do we assess that in comparison to the quality of all the other arguments being made? That's where we place it. And I mean, that does require a lot of thought in order to rank everything that way. But so when people criticize him, he takes it to heart. When he's complimented, he treats it like he won a Grammy and acts strangely about it. You'll see later in the video. Yeah, I'd have to see examples about that. Ethan, just like me, for real on politic takes. Lazy? Hassan is love, Hassan is life. I feel like you and my brother think I follow his ideologies way more than I actually do. Oh, I feel like you and my brother think I watch and follow. No, I mean, I believe you when you say that you've, like, watched him on a couple of things, but I don't know how you can do it, because he's just a vapid personality, if you can call it that. There's hardly any personality there.
With a very serious topic, I would say.
But okay, yeah, I agree with this point. Ethan is good at being goofy, wacky, and funny. He's not very good at providing a rigorous case on anything.
Say that Hassan was very well equipped to talk about that topic.
You
know, that's a claim that requires substantiation. Let's see if he substantiates it.
Palestinian people living in the West Bank are subject to these horrific conditions, horrific living conditions by the state of Israel, America.
See, that's an interesting thought process, that people in Palestine, in the West Bank, in those areas. Okay, what is it? West Bank and what's the other territory? Because there's both of them that constitute what is regarded as the state of Palestine. Well, it's not a state. Like, it's recognized. I don't know. It's disputed. It's like Taiwan. It's like, is that the state of Taiwan, or is that just like China's backdoor? It depends on who you talk to. But this is geopolitics for you. But the people in Palestine are in that predicament strictly due to Israel. That just sounds completely ignorant of the case in the Middle East, or it seems quite pathological. Here, give me a moment. I have received a chicken. Sorry about that. I don't know if I'll snack on this or anything. Actually, I think I will. I think I will snack on this a little bit. It's going to be good. Some chicken. I have so much tolerance. It's a blessing. It's from my people pleaser characteristics. I don't know if I would necessarily regard that as a blessing, but it depends entirely on your perspective, I suppose.
America's greatest ally and the only
what was the point I was making on this? I don't think that the people in Palestine are there because of the I don't think that the horrific conditions, quote unquote, that exist there. Well, okay, I'm not going to try and make it seem like I'm saying that the horrific conditions don't exist. It's like, yes, I believe that there are horrific conditions. War creates horrific conditions, absolutely. But it takes two to tango, and I don't think that you're laying the blame at the right place if you lay 100% of it at one party in particular. almost universally, I think, you can't necessarily say, well, you are 100% responsible for this situation. It's like, well, who else is responsible? And sort of the way that I put it, and I suppose it's a highly individualistic case to make, and I suppose it comes from Solzhenitsyn, but it's that is it Solzhenitsyn, or is it what is it, Dostoevsky, wherever it comes from. The idea is that when something is not the way that it ought to be, or when something goes wrong, it is the responsibility of every individual. Oh, no, it's flipped the other way around. It is your responsibility for not only what goes wrong in your life, but for what goes wrong in existence, in all of creation, effectively. And it's a bit of a crazy thought. But it's like, to whatever degree, I believe that there's always something that you can do about your situation, no matter how tough or dire it is. And I mean, there's something pathological about saying to people that they are not in control of their circumstances, and I think that that's kind of the pathological the pathological left in a sense, and that's a bit perhaps too broad of a term, but there's something very pathological about saying that everything that is wrong in your life is external. It's like you are encouraging an external locus of control, and I think that's you may as well stab me if you are really trying to make me believe that my circumstances are outside of my control. You may as well just end me there, because why would I ever want to believe that something is outside of my control? Well, I suppose it's in the case that something truly is outside of my control, then it helps me to understand that I ought to give up when it comes to being realistic about what I can do about my circumstances. But I sort of see that as it's always someone else's fault, and that's the pathological aspect of this. And I think that's kind of what's comical about this entire situation, is that you've got Hassan, Ian, and Ethan, all three of them, to a certain degree, seem to be. Well, I don't know about Ian so much, but at least the two of them seem to be pretty set in that mindset that there's nothing that you can do about your circumstances. Or at least in certain cases, it's just like, well, you've certainly seen it in Hassan's behavior before, on plenty of different topics. More talking about the content theft, like he famously had said, "What do you want me to do? Die?" It's like, no, I want you to actually take responsibility for the fact that you don't actually own what you're streaming to people, in such a non-transformative way. It's like, this is so bloody transformative what I'm doing right now, that it's okay. Right now we're at like 100%, or sorry, 90%. Is that how I was factoring that? It's like we're 5 minutes in and we're 50 minutes in. It's like, that's bloody transformative, isn't it? And he would just play it back, hardly even produce a single cogent thought on the whatever the topic was that he was consuming of other people's content. And then, when someone actually called him out for it, was just like, oh, you people just can't get off my case, can you? It's just like, did you think that you did nothing to get here in the first place? Please, spare me. Everyone assumes an enemy, that's the issue. We're all human, but sprinkled in, yes, there's monsters, but most of us are scared and or traumatized and act out of emotion. I suppose there's some truth to that. I think I think that either you could see it this way, and you would end up in the same conclusion. It's that there's no such thing as a monster, or that everyone is a monster. And I think both of those ideas are effectively the same thing. It's that if you believe that somebody is beyond understanding at a human level, it's beyond your capacity to understand, beyond your capability, they're just monsters, then you're abdicating the responsibility of actually attempting to understand what happened to get them there, because they are human and you have to come to terms with that. Like, they're not just broken people, they are humans, and they ended up there for a reason. That there was a traceable pathway, and if you don't look into it, if you don't actually try to take a good hard look at that, that's the eye of Horus. It's like, look as hard as you can about this and attempt to understand, and it'll set you free, because you'll get as close to the truth as possible, and the truth sets you free. And that's unrelated, though. I think Hassan lacks the ability to critically evaluate without assuming a whole ass enemy relentlessly. I suppose so. I think he pathologically seeks enemies, because it's really easy to make a satisfying case, at least to yourself and to pathological people, when you've got a convenient enemy that you can just say, well, that it's their fault. It's always their fault. It's like, okay, it's easy to say, well, you're just a bad person or whatever. Like, it's a lot more difficult to actually assess why. And the main point that I'm making in context here is that I don't think Palestine ought to be liberated from Israel. I think Palestine ought to be liberated from their own damn government. The government that takes all of their resources and funnels it into additional terrorist efforts. And I don't know, like, if you don't see Palestine's behavior for about the entire existence of Israel as anything but terror, well, the entire, I don't know. I'm certain there's been cases where it wasn't quite that way, but there's you don't get to shoot rockets, blindly into civilian areas and to not be called a terrorist. And I think I think that criticism certainly goes both ways. But part of my question is what amount of what we see is true, because there's too much propaganda, and perhaps that's on either side. I don't know. I would much rather for this this topic to be a big question mark to most people in the West, at least, or in the US, or people on like literally the opposite end of the globe, because it's far more a local issue. I think it just ends up getting, well, everything's politicized and everything's some sort of ideological club by which you can exact your utopian view on the rest of creation. So I don't know, it's too complex a topic for somebody to dumb it down to that degree. I don't know. Palestine just has no responsibility in regards to being an aggressor in plenty of situations, and I'm not even necessarily saying that Israel is incapable of retaliating in a way that is excessive, but it's like there's always some sort of a conceit that you can make in order to try and confirm your own bias on the topic, where it's like, well, if you go back far enough, then they're just invading and they just decided to create this other state in the Middle East and to steal the land from people. And it's like, you can go back even further than that, and it was the land of Judah at one point, and it's like, how far back are you going to go and until you finally just say, okay, everybody is going to take responsibility for what they in their current time in the present are responsible for, and that includes any amount of atrocities committed by either side. Take responsibility for it and stop. Like, it's not really going to be going anywhere if it's this us versus them. And that's sort of the conclusion of what is it, the Cain and Abel. It's like, well, why didn't they just kill Cain? And it's like, well, kill one of ours, we kill one of yours, and then it's like, well, you killed ours, and so we'll kill yours, and then it's just tribal warfare ad infinitum, and there's not really any purpose to that. And so it's like, well, when you've got two tribes and they can't quite get along, then what do you do about it? You agree to leave each other the hell alone. And as long as Israel's existed, none of its neighbors have decided to do that. And it's like, I don't know, it's just tough to, I think it's a lot tougher of a case to make than what iDubbbz and Hassan make it out to be, because it's like, well, you can dumb it down to sound bites like this, but you're not going to get enough bloody context, because all of these statements require a significant amount of you have to build that case, is the point. Are sociopaths or psychopaths monsters? No. I don't believe in what's the way to put it? This is sort of the field of abnormal psychology that I subscribe to, I suppose, is every single thing that somebody does makes sense to them, even if they can't necessarily explain it. And that is to say that everything is rational in a subjective sense. And that's why I don't believe in stupidity. It's like I don't think it is possible for you to be stupid in the sense that, well, what do you mean by stupid exactly? Are you measuring intelligence, which I say is just the amount of calculations that you're able to run with the hardware that you've been gifted, versus wisdom being knowing what to do with that and which calculations you are running, the data that is actually being processed, and data that is actionable, most importantly. So it's like, well, in that sense, there are some people who have a low data set, and so you can call them stupid. It's like, well, it's ignorance that you're talking about. I don't know necessarily what stupidity means, if not that most people use it as a way for them to club. It's like, if you understood what I understood, then you wouldn't make that decision. So if you were to make that decision, that would be an irrational decision based off of my framework for understanding how things work. And it's like, well, yes, but that's your framework, and your conceptual schema would not be functioning properly if it went against the things that it believed. But other people have a completely different schema, you see. That's kind of the point. So in that sense, sociopaths and psychopaths, they're abnormal in the sense that they're outside of the range that we are necessarily prepared to understand as a population. But I don't think that they're monsters in this sense that they are functioning in exactly the way that they need to function, or exactly the way that they would function. Well, I don't know. Otherwise, they wouldn't function that way. I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense to me. I suppose it depends on what you mean by monster. Because I regard monsters to be as like, well, this is the predator, the predator class of creature. It's an archetypical predator. It's something that despises the bane of your it is the bane of your existence. It despises you for existing or for attempting to do so, and will destroy you, consume you, use you for its own aims, whatever those may be. It's a predator, and it's like, well, in that sense, there are plenty of human beings that are monsters. But I think a lot of the time, monster is used to describe something that is outside of the ability for humans to comprehend. And so in that sense, it's like, well, no, there aren't any true monsters. That's just you trying to wash your hands clean of something that you could actually learn about and be more prepared for. And then how can you necessarily say that you could not have prevented the rise of another Hitler if you could have actually understood why Hitler rose, and did all that you could individually to stop it. And it's not to say, like most people would take that statement and be like, well, Hitler was his own person, I can't stop him, in a sense. And I was like, well, can you? Like, do you truly understand how that happened? And I don't know, it's like, you got to read Ordinary Men, you know, you got to look into it, because that's the Eye of Horus. Anyway, is the Minecraft movie politicized? Bloody no. I question mark. Like, no, I don't think so. I don't know. Are there politics in it? Are people politicizing it? That's an interesting question. It's not uncommon for people to not take responsibility for their actions. True enough, and that's a sad fact, isn't it? See it happening too many times. Yes, too many times indeed. Anyhow,
these horrific conditions, horrific living conditions by the state of Israel, America's greatest ally and the only democracy in the Middle East, if you ask.
It's interesting that he looks at that line with that disdain, or he's just like, yeah, that's what they think. It's as, you know, it's as democratic, quote unquote, as any other system that has a parliamentary system. Like, when's the last time that Palestine held an election? The last time they attempted to hold an election, they canceled it because the leader, Mahmoud Abbas, who was, who had been in power since, well, when was it? Bloody 2003 or something? And it's like, that's the last time that they held an election, and he started to lose, and so they canceled the election. It's like, I don't know, don't throw stones, right? Like, in the very least, Israel is more a democracy than Palestine is, and that's a big part of the reason why I think that they should liberate themselves from their own government before they attempt to liberate themselves from their neighbor's government. It's like, what would happen if you left your neighbors alone and, you know, deposed the despot, right? Like, you've got a tyrant above you. What would happen if you actually took the tyrant out and said, we're going to try and make the best of our situation, regardless of how our neighbors, friendly or otherwise, are going to be? Because are you going to go and say, I want control of this land, and, you know, do an October 11th? Or are you going to just, if you bomb us, we will take action? Which one of those is, you know, because this is the issue. If you're looking collectively and merging an entire nation into one individual as some sort of an archetype or something, to, it's like we tend to try and see collectives and nations as we see individuals, because we are individuals, and so it's difficult to comprehend something that is a million people. And I mean, you know, one human being can hardly comprehend themselves, let alone the 200 people that is at least theorized to be the maximum that any individual can know without being overwhelmed with the massive amount of information that comes from that. They can hardly manage that, let alone to condense an entire nation of hundreds of millions, or, you know, just 1 million. Anything over 200 is too much for any one person to properly comprehend. And so it's funny that we say, well, Israel is doing this, and it's like, these aren't individual people. And so you can try to scale it down in a useful way to say, well, this nation, let's say that this nation is one family, and then let's say that this nation is another family, and that they have a dispute of, it's like, I don't know, it's difficult to have that framework and to boil it down that way in any way that isn't just inherently counterproductive. But I think the way that people tend to do it ends up, you know, in collectivistic terms. It's like, well, you have to be responsible for the leadership of your system because you're under the system. And what exactly is the thought process? It's like there is no collective responsibility. Primarily there's no individual responsibility, but there is no collective responsibility if I like those people enough, or if I'm biased towards those people. And it's like, that's something you have to fight no matter which side of the proverbial fence you end on. I asked about the Minecraft movie because you said everything is politicized. In what context? I don't know if everything is politicized. Many things are politicized, but, well, I don't know. It always ends up being onto some sort of a topic. There's always overlap. Anyhow.
Republicans and even liberals.
Well, the dance he invented was...
This is a good juxtaposition. I like this.
Israeli settlers are trying to evict Palestinian families in occupied East Jerusalem. The United Nations says that may be a war crime. It literally is.
It's kind of funny because that's supposed to say a point. It's like, well, because he was making content, rambling and waffling on about this, about the thing, means that he's qualified to talk about it. It's like, well, yeah, he's more versed on it, I suppose, because he's been actively reviewing what's been going on geopolitically and what have you. But it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that your take is correct. Like, I have a somewhat of a knowledge about the situation that he's talking about, and it's literally an individual local issue, and he's trying to blow it up, and he's saying the UN is trying to blow it up, or what is it? The UN is saying that this is a war crime, and it's like, the reason that the people in that territory are being evicted is because they are restoring the rights to the properties that were in those areas, that they what was it? They would have granted. Oh yeah, and this is actually quite interesting because I had relatively recently listened to some podcasts around this time, because I just listened to everything chronologically, but they would have allowed whomever it was who was staying there to stay there, but they weren't paying the people who owned that, and so they had the deeds to the land and said, if you don't pay up, we're evicting you. And that's literally just how ownership of land or buildings works, is that if someone owns it and then they're leasing it to somebody else, then it's like, there you go, like, pay up. If you don't pay up, you get evicted. And the only reason that it ends up getting confusing is because I think people are ideologically possessed, and this just kind of lays at the heart of it, because it's like, well, you've got Israel that we can say represents imperialism, and particularly, like, I don't know, well, not particularly, because it's an amorphous, nonsensical concept, but bear with me for a moment. It represents the imperialistic right, and then Palestine represents at least the people who deserve a voice, regarded, whatever the hell the bloody phrase is. It's like they're the minorities, they're the dispossessed, they're the it's like, feel sorry for them. They're the poor, effectively, and it's like, that's kind of at the heart of an issue on many fronts. But thinking, I'm processing this. I don't know. It's like, it's a war crime to evict people from land that it's like, this land was not under Israel's occupation for like 18 years or something like that, but the people who had the land, the deeds still to the land that they literally evacuated because it was taken, said, hey, we still have the deeds, we own this land. Now that we've now that the country is repossess this land? Can we actually repossess our land that's there? And they said, well, you've got the deed. So they went up and they said, hey, this is our land. Like, and it's like, either you, I don't know, I think there's a lot more to it than that, but it's like either you pay up or you get evicted. It's like either you're going to pay me rent or you're going to get off. And if you're a bad tenant, then I also have the right to kick you off as well. Because it's like, no, you don't have the right to live on other people's property without actually paying up. And if they had paid up, then they would have been fine. I'm pretty sure that's what the situation is. I could be wrong, of course. Many people who have probably made better cases than I on that front, but it's like there's at least a well-argued point that's on the opposite side there, and there's no exploration of that he's just making points. And granted, he's making points. Ethan in this is just messing around. So the purpose of this, the point that Ian's making is like, well, one of them has talked about politics, and the other has mucked about and waffled about politics occasionally in some sort of a pathological rant every once in a while. But it's like, that's basically, you know, I think Ian's point is clear, but Ian's point that Hassan is well equipped to discuss these topics is like, I don't know, not necessarily.
Eating the toppings, and the pizza looked like a burn victim. It was all disgusting.
I don't know if you can make that joke in 2021.
Why?
It's insensitive to burn victims.
I think it's a good analogy. It's a powerful image.
Ethan was not prepared for this. Ethan,
I
the
don't
whole
know what he
time,
was talking about.
is more of the goof guy, and that's fine. You know, we don't expect Ethan to be an expert on the topic. Ethan was obviously caught.
I think if you mouth off about something that you don't know about, and granted that I was just speaking about something that I had limited knowledge on, but I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding the ball here. It's like, here's my hand. This is my hand. Like, I'm not pretending to know more than I actually do. I've just picked this up via osmosis. But it's like, you know, you better know your stuff if you're going to talk about it. I think you could say that of Hassan, even if he's not correct on everything necessarily. Like, that's not the point that he's trying to address. Ethan does a very poor job at making good, cogent points on, and really just at making a case for whatever it is that he likes to rant about. And he will pretend like he knows more than he does, and it gets very dogmatic, and it's frustrating, and often, I suppose this is an appropriate time to use the word dehumanizing. It's often dehumanizing towards his enemies.
In this tricky situation where he is extremely sympathetic to the Israeli cause and what's happening to them. His wife's Israeli. She served in the IDF. He obviously likes the state of Israel. On the
It's an interesting way to put it. It's like, he likes the state of Israel. It's like, well, he's lived there. He's had family there. Like, I think he lived there for 6 years or something like that. Like, you don't leave a place and then just be like, well, don't really care what happens to them. It's like, no, you knew those people. You lived alongside them every single day. Plenty of the people who you saw, who you passed on the street, people you knew personally, had their livelihoods destroyed, are actually getting killed by violent attacks. It's like, that's far more than I just like the state of Israel. It's like, well, imagine if an entire neighborhood got like massacred. That wouldn't just be like, well, yeah, I like America, or let's put it down to a more local level. It's like, you live in Arkansas, you move down to Florida, and then Arkansas gets like, massacred. Then you're like, oh yeah, I liked a lot of people in Arkansas. Well, but sucks for them though. It's like, it's not just like, oh yeah, I like Arkansas. I dig Arkansas. It's a great state. Love that place. It's like, no, it's far more than that. It's going to be, I don't know. It's quite the oversimplification of the context. It's like, yeah, he just likes the state of Israel. It's like, no, he lived there for 6 years. Like, it's going to be a bit more than that. Like, you have to be fair in that regard. Like,
On the other hand, he's just got done capturing a massive progressive audience who are very politically savvy. They follow Hassan.
I don't know if his audience is politically savvy in the sense that, like, you know, if you follow Hassan, are you politically savvy? You I think you may just be savvy in pathology, if anything. It's like, I don't know what you absorb by listening to him waffle on for however long, or by watching him watch other people's content. It's like, I don't think that makes you politically savvy necessarily. I follow Hassan, so according to him, I'm politically savvy. Yeah, that's quite the standard, right? The people who agree with me enough to follow me, especially if they donate to me, those are the people who are objectively correct on anything. It's like, okay. All
Hassan
it takes.
is strictly a political streamer, so this is something.
No. Is that true? Is that true now? It wasn't true then. He wasn't strictly a political streamer. He went on a load of other. He was a content thief for a lot. I feel like for at least more infamously than he was a political streamer, like exclusively a political streamer seems a little bit too much. It's not like Moist Critical is exclusively like a culture YouTuber who only talks about like news and culture. It's like he does other things. I don't know. Exclusive seems like a bit of a
something they're very
exaggeration.
keyed into. So when they see Ethan say things that are just like not accurate and it's just propaganda, they're gonna call it out.
But it's as if, are you going to go on any of the topics that were happening around 2021 just because that's what I was consuming on the H3 podcast? Attempting to consume. It doesn't go down very easy, frankly. But like, it's like, are you going to look at any of the things that he would say when it's like he's clearly out of the loop on this and he just, you know, gets dogmatic about it? It's like, I don't know, propaganda, quote unquote. I don't know if it's propaganda so much as it's dogmatic. But it's like, I don't know, that's what politics ends up being for loads of people. It's just say the right things. Like, take all the boxes off and then we'll call it good. But like, he said plenty of things against Republicans that was not even close to, and I'm not even saying necessarily Republicans specifically. Like, he has a cultural issue, a psychological bias against certain types of people, frankly. I mean, when he goes on bloody elitist rants, is that going to show up in here at all? Like, anything that because it's like, you can cut it both ways. He did this to the right and he did it to the left, but I feel like it's a little bit of a blind spot. Well, to the left on like one topic. Like, when else has Ethan actually said something that wasn't completely bowing down to his left? It's like, is it just in this case, or what is it? Like, I don't know.
From the river to the sea essentially means the state of Israel is going bye-bye.
So this mass...
I'm wondering, to what degree would you call that simple propaganda? Like, how are you going to explain away from the river to the sea? Like, do I have to pull up a map and say it's like, I don't know what other conclusion that you can get from that. Like, how are you going to, what mental gymnastics are required for you to perform in order to be like, well, no, that's not what it means. Like, I'm pretty sure he's correct in that statement. Like, what is the counterfactual here? What else could from the river to the sea mean in the context of the area? Like, it's just like, what? No, they just want to be left alone? No, it's not that. It's that they believe that all of the land that is currently occupied by other people, it's like, from the river to the sea, I will spread my seed. Bruh. That's all I got to say about that.
It's a progressive audience that Ethan has, adopted over the years. They're becoming increasingly critical of his position because now he's talking about it not on Leftovers. He's now talking about it on his podcast.
He's been doing this forever. It's just now that you care about it because he's finally decided to go against the left because it's personal to him because he lived there. Like, that's what's bizarre to me, is that any amount of pushback on being like, hey, could you actually do a little bit of due diligence on this topic, and if you're going to mouth off about it, in any other political case, it was like, well, he's singing the praises of the right side, so it's perfectly fine. They'll turn a blind eye to it. It's like the moment that he goes off in a way that contradicts the mob, now it's a problem. It's like, you were fine with it before, but he was just as anti-intellectual. He was just as not rigorous in presenting his case on those topics. Why is there a double standard when it comes to that? It's like, well, he was right, but he was he was right in spirit, if not in substance. It's like he didn't have much substance there. If you thought he had substance when he was talking about plenty of things that he was talking about, it's like, I don't know. That's the thing. It was like every other day. That's what made it so difficult to watch. It's like every other day he's ranting about something political that he doesn't know jack about, and it's always in a way that is like, all of the people who disagree with me, I want them to die. And it's like, either you die or I want you to shut up permanently so I can at least pretend that you don't exist, because your existence is a problem to me. It's like, that's kind of dogmatic behavior that you can point out on the right or on the left abstractly. I still hate those terms, and I really need to figure out a better way to refer to it in a truthful way, really. Oh, you said consensually. Important to stipulate that.
What I want to do is show you guys how I see Israel, because you don't see that when you listen to Hassan and you hear all these.
Israel again blocks Gaza aid, further risking lives. See, because this is part of my question here, and this is a question that I ask in earnest. Like, I'm not asking this because I'm like consumed the propaganda. I'm asking this because genuinely, it's like, how do we know that there isn't a significant amount of supplies that go into Palestine that go directly towards I'm not even saying military purposes, terrorist purposes, because you could use that to give citizens food, water, and other necessities. But I think there's absolutely a pretty strong case that there's a lot of fake publicity in this sense. It's like you can pop up like some random article headline. It's like, headlines are supposed to get grabs, but we've seen things recently in the mainstream news where they'll take some awful situation and then flip it directly on its head and then say, well, this was an innocent person who shot this guy, and wait, no, it's like this innocent guy was shot. Isn't that terrible? And then it's like, well, no, he was holding a knife and he was running. It's like, well, it doesn't matter because that doesn't fit my narrative. It's like, we'll hide that on page 20. It's like, well, maybe it's like the information is not curated for the truth. And this is kind of the question. It's like, do we want to get down to the truth of the matter? Because there are many cases in which Palestine intentionally curates information in order to garner sympathy from other nations so that they may, because you would think if you sacrifice your own people to fuel terrorism, you're going to run out of people to sacrifice, and then you're going to run out of people to enslave via taxation, frankly, into funding more terrorism. It's like you don't have a nation to defend, quote unquote, even if that's what you believe that you're doing. I'm not a sick man, Cloud. Good. I wasn't implying that you were. I was just like, okay. I just wasn't even thinking on those along those lines. I'm pretty sure it's been on video, so obviously take it with a grain of salt because I don't have the evidence right in front of me. I'm pretty sure it's been on video that that there have been protesters, well, not only like protests that go there and then they pepper in terrorists within the protesters, and then they'll shoot, and then they'll be like, oh, see, look at them opening fire on all of these peaceful protesters, and then the people who actually have weapons will drop their weapons and then run away and then be like, see, I'm unarmed, you can't shoot me. Those are pretty scummy tactics, I would say, but it's required Israel to say, actually, now we have to count every single bullet and ensure that we're as rigorous as possible when it comes to taking out our targets, because they like to use unarmed, innocent people, women and children, not the most insignificant factor in that. It's like, using women and children as a human shield in order to say, well, oh, see, you can't shoot me because this is an innocent person. It's like, well, you dragged them in there. Like, it's not me killing them at that point, it's you killing them. If that's what you're gonna do, it's like what you should be doing is you should be getting the women and the children as far away from anywhere where fighting could break out as possible. So I think that there's a particular situation that I was thinking of. That's why I brought up video. Is like there may be video evidence of it. I don't quite recall, but there was somebody who was in a wheelchair who all of a sudden it's a miracle and he gets up and starts running away, because, well, turns out once people stop firing, you might want to start using the legs that you could use the entire time, because it was a farce the entire time. It was, you're not supposed to get that footage out there, because that goes counter to what you want what you want people to believe about the topic. And it's like, I don't want to go either way on this, because there's been enough of a stink about people saying that, Israeli soldiers are raping, and that there's, just bombs going on top of these buildings, whether or not there's a ton of tunnels with terrorists hiding underneath it, doesn't really matter. It's like, I don't know. There's so much information that you could comb over, that it's like, this is dense, obviously. Like, I'm definitely not making it through this very quickly, but it's like, this is dense stuff. We're talking about geopolitics here.
Fucking left, like mega lefties talking about it like it's some super racist, like crazy, like Jim Crow.
Well, that's the funny thing, is that it's like Ethan saying is this super racist, crazy Jim Crow thing, and then it's like Israel's apartheid against Palestinians. It's not apartheid. They literally exist in territory that's unoccupied by Israel, because, like, this is the case, and I think that it's true. If Israel were to put down their weapons, Israel will be destroyed tomorrow. If Palestine were to put down their weapons, there would be a Palestinian state tomorrow. It's like, do you want to be the aggressor, or do you not? Do you want to leave people alone and to be left alone? Or are you willing to aggress somebody just for existing as long as possible? And it's like, you could say that Israel has been aggressing the existence of the people who live in the land since Israel was constructed, in the modern sense of the term. But it's like, who is currently the aggressor overall it's not exactly an easy thing. It's like all that he's presenting here is that yes, there are people who believe that, and there are people on bloody Vice. I'm pretty sure this is there are people on Vice who believe that. It's like, yes, I believe that people believe that. Just because they believe that doesn't mean that they're correct. Like popping up just a random headline does not disprove the point that Ethan is making here, because he's actually lived in Israel, and you know what happened to lived experience, right? Like what happened to that? Because if you go to Israel, it might not actually turn out to be an apartheid state within Israel. I think the only apartheid is within Palestine itself, and it's not because of Israel. It's because of the tyrannical government that exists in the land there, that doesn't allow for any amount of freedom, because most people don't want to be at war. Most people would rather I keep to my own and you keep to your own. You don't aggress me and I don't aggress you. And then maybe eventually we'll be friends, but you can't be friends after you've been at each other's throats. You know, you have to give time to cool off. And I think most people in Palestine would rather be left alone. I think in the case that an entire nation becomes vehemently opposed to the existence of their neighbor is, you know, either it's entirely Israel's fault for existing, which I don't know if there's any defensible truth to that. That's not, you know, entirely indicative of the psychological standpoint of the person who believes that. Or the alternative is that, I mean, it's just not that damn simple. Like the alternative is that people have bought into something that's incredibly destructive. And I don't know, perhaps if everybody buys into a lie, you really will see the consequences. It's questionable as to where the lie is and what it is, I suppose. My friend is Jewish and he told me Israel is beautiful. I want to go there once things are okay to visit. Are they ever going to be? That's part of the question. I don't buy that people want war to stop when they're okay with with terrorist behavior. And it's just too complicated to say that it's not as if Israel isn't guilty of anything. It's like, well, yes, there's never going to be a perfect scenario, but it is to say that you know, Hamas is not the way. It's like that. If we could get Hamas out of the way, there would be a lot more peace and happiness in the land. But it's like, I don't know. I think there are just people who are not it's just complex, I suppose. I don't know. I don't really like this topic very much, obviously, but
society. Like, I can't wait to show you guys.
The other day, BB fired a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about.
So Ethan is having this backfire.
Well, it's like the really good guy in question.
A lot
It's
of people
like,
are pissed.
I don't know what the context is for any of this. And it's like you can make this quippy stuff pop up, and it's like no one's gonna catch this unless they're pausing and really. It's like, well, I don't know what they're talking about. I'd have to go and look up the episode of this, and it's like I don't have a lot of context on this, so oh well.
Pissed about.
So Ethan is having this back and forth with his liberal.
It's part of the thing. Like I don't really like talking about geopolitics that happen on the other side of the world. Like, I don't know. But we're gonna like go to war with people individually and culturally due to a literal war that's happening on the other side of the world. It's like, I don't know. It's not exactly my problem. I can take a look and assess and be like, okay, this is what it seems to be, but I don't know. In the end, I think there's going to be people who are invested in that area, you know, in one way or another, and it's going to be like, you know, up to them to really figure out where they land on it, because, you know, what right do any of us really have to say what is going on the other side of the world? It should or shouldn't be the way that it is. It's like, what can we do about it as individuals, more particularly, that would actually be morally okay? And I think if it's like voluntary, you know, assistance to whatever regard, but I don't know. I do believe that my taxes should not be sent over to any foreign country. I don't think my taxes should be sent domestically to corporations, let alone, it's like, I don't believe in bailouts. I don't believe in corporate subsidies. I don't believe in I don't believe in positive rights. It's like, just leave me alone. And if I want to you know, delegate a certain amount of power from me to, you know, localities in order to protect my rights, then it's like, well, I'll do that. I just don't want to be protecting anybody else's rights, negative or positive necessarily, when they have very little to do with me. It's like, I don't know, voluntarily donating for or against whatever cause across the world. It's like, I don't know if that's ever going to do anything for you but make you feel better about your contributing to goodness in the world or whatever the hell. But as for me, I just rather let people deal with their own problems, because I've got my own. There plenty for me to worry about. My problems would go a lot easier if I didn't have a certain amount of my income stolen, not particularly because it goes to either side, funding either side of a bloody war on the other side of the planet. It's like, that's great. That's a great geopolitical situation.
Audience, leftist people online, progressive content creators, Hassan, all of these different people. He's finding new people every day, basically, to get in fights with.
Of all people, this guy, Matt Lieb, Frogan and Denims and all these dipshits, and everybody thinks this guy's awesome, apparently. Even though he looks like Millhouse, fucking dork.
This is the funny thing. Like, he did this with everybody. I don't know. He does this with everybody who he disagrees with. He goes and he clowns on him and he spouts off, and he doesn't necessarily make any points that are, you know, intellectually consistent, particularly. It's like, he's done this with everybody. You just didn't really give a shit when it was directed towards the right, because you were satisfied with his conclusion. It's like, even though you weren't actually attempting to go discover the truth, because I just get frustrated when I don't see the truth, or at least not in preponderance. It's like, I'm frustrated at myself, I think, for not making a particularly fantastic case for or against. It's like, I'm just kind of ended up shrugging, because it's like, I don't know, I kind of lean towards this end, but it's like the one thing I can say is that I think the world would be a better place if Hamas didn't exist, and if a different governmental entity existed there, because if they actually had the ability to choose their own government, they'd probably choose to do something better for everybody involved. I don't know, people who don't have the choice to be able to live their own lives aren't going to. It's like, what can you expect out of that land if it's ruled by tyrants? They tyrannize the people themselves, and then it's like, what are they going to do externally? It's like, well, you existed to be tyrannized as well, so gimme. It's like, I don't know. That's why I stopped caring about the news. I just want to focus on what I can control, and it's like, I think that's fair enough, yeah. I think that's a pretty good place to be, honestly. Goodbye, gotta go. Well, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll see you later.
Denims, by the way, was the real villain of the video. Evil, hateful fucking... And I'll say it and I'll double down on it. And people... Oh, no?
No,
not go there?
And it's all culminated.
It's funny because it's like that is just how Ethan is about everybody who he disagrees with. It becomes this dogmatic little tirade every single time, but it's just funny that now it matters. It's like, oh, now you've gone up against the mob, now it matters. It's like, you know, it was pathological before and you didn't care because you didn't care about the truth back then. You just cared about doing what you pleased, and what you pleased was you know, unearned moral superiority, to feign unearned moral superiority, frankly. And it's like, you really ought to be going for the truth.
At least for my story, in Ethan burning bridges with people until he burned the bridge with me. Since Ethan and Hassan's falling out, I've been keeping to myself mostly. I don't have many nice things to say. Maybe if Ethan's able to get some help, maybe if he stops harassing other creators.
It's funny because it's like, you could say this is harassing other creators, but it's like, I don't know, he's been doing this for years, and nobody had a thing to say about it, even though he was doing it for years. He was making bank doing it. He was being cheered on by people, not only in his fan base. It's like, because he was picking the right targets, apparently, and that's the insane line. No bad tactics, only bad targets. It's like, I don't know. It seems a little bit ideologically possessed, and I just want to see a little bit of a more rigorous intellectual case to be made there, where it's like, you know, where was this attitude 4 years ago? Because no one was really saying that on his end. It's like, you know, are you only going to speak up when they come for you, or when they come for your buddies? Are you going to speak up when they come for people who you're not exactly friends with, or people who you despise for the most part? Or like, I don't know, when are you going to speak up and tell the truth? Or are you just going to go along and be with the mob the entire time? And it's like, I don't know. I feel like it takes a whole lot more courage to go against the mob, even if you're not making a very rigorous intellectual case, than it is to go with the mob and to make an intellectual case for it, rigorous or otherwise. It's like, just strange, the double standards here. Or it's not even a standard until it contradicts what you believe. It's like, it seems odd.
Maybe if he does these things, eventually he'll find peace and we can like rekindle our friendship. So that's been my approach. I've occasionally thrown a joke Ethan's way in the form of Hassan Piker versus Ethan Klein for boxing.
I like iDubbbz. He's a good guy, but I don't like this stupid. It's not a fucking petty beef. It's like, this guy is evil and he's doing anti-Semitism.
I find this to be a really interesting thing, because this is the way that a dogmatic religious person talks about things. It's just, you didn't care when it was directed. Like, I hate to be a bit of an echoey, a bit of a broken record here, but it's like, this is the way he gets about everything. It's like, this isn't funny. This isn't some sort of petty, funny little beef thing. This is like, I want this. I don't like this person's existence. It's like, you know, he'll believe that about Hassan. It's like, oh, well, it's not okay about Hassan because he's one of the good ones. But it's just not even a blink of an eye when it was the same thing being put in the other direction. It's like, it was still just as dogmatic back then, wasn't it? Wasn't it still kind of a bigoted, dare I say? Was it, or was it not? Because this does not seem to be a consistently applied principle. I don't think anybody really cared when the shoe was on the other foot, and that means something. When you put the shoe on the other foot and you don't notice, you know, or when you only care about the difference at that point, it's like, okay, I feel like you weren't paying attention to where your foot was going before.
And also, he's way out of my weight class.
He didn't like that, but fucking sometimes you gotta.
Was he out of his weight class at this point? How much weight did he lose? Just like insane to think about. That Hassan is heavier than Ethan. Actually, I don't know. I don't know how much Ethan weighed before, because weight is different than fat content is, it's a different thing. Different densities. Muscle is more dense, so it would make sense at this level. I just never really thought I'd see the day, I suppose, where Ethan was like a little skinny twig.
So he's way out of my weight class.
He didn't like that, but fucking sometimes you gotta just throw something out there. I used to work with.
Does he still have his like gastrointestinal issue? I mean, that didn't sound like one of his old belches.
This video editor named Froggy Tonic.
I thought this was interesting.
Him because he.
I don't know who Architect is, but Onion Person, one of the most bloody insufferable people on that platform.
He was in the circles online that I was in. And one of those circles is an H3 fan. He watched Ethan's content. He liked Ethan's content until he didn't like Ethan's content. There would be an account that I was in.
I forgot I was going to go through these.
An H3.
Brett is like a force of nature, mentally and physically. Good luck, AB. Favorite of the H3 crew. Hope you come out undamaged. This was talking about the Creator Clash. Shout out Dan from the H3 podcast for noticing little Alfredo cam. Hope there's another H3 watch along with the Creator Clash this year. Oh yeah, because he watched the he edited the Creator Clash too.
Watched Ethan's content. He liked.
This is pulled as the latest H3 pod where this genius tries to defend a blatant grift / idiocy to Ethan. This is art. Look at the timing switch, even if coincidental. Pure art. The H3 crew has something so effing precious, I tell you. Absolutely goated. Even with the sauce, even. And it's just Pearl, whatever her name is. This strange woman. And what did Ethan schooled her or something in this clip? I'm certain that Ethan is capable of that. I don't know if I've necessarily seen him demonstrating his abilities in that regard, but I'll take your word for it, Froggy.
Liked Ethan's content until he didn't like Ethan's content.
Yeah, until he didn't. What I saw is that Ethan is very much prone to anxiety and stress, and having loads of people on his head was a lot. He didn't leave room for self-questioning, instead going in instant defense mode because it challenged too much of his belief / experience. Feels fair but immature. I don't know what the context was with this. Maybe it was Hassan. I don't know. I don't know when this happened. This was like a year ago now. I suppose this kind of harks back to what we were talking about earlier when it comes to fragile egos. Is that what this is? Instant defense mode because it challenged too much of his belief / experience. It's interesting. I'd break that down as challenge too much of your belief and experience. I would call that, you have a conceptual schema and then something is disrupting that conceptual schema and you really want it to not be true, because if it's not true, then it's really inconvenient because now you have to restructure your entire conceptual schema to fit, otherwise it's going to come crashing down, and that's obviously a very stressful situation to cope with.
Content. There would be an occasional Froggy tweet where I'd be like, I agree with that.
Ethan Klein, do you really think putting yourself, your crew, and your audience in semantic competition over a petty year-old quote-unquote I'm right, you're wrong obsession you can't get over is the right strategy? Stop tormenting yourself, man. Listen to Hassan. That's quite the sentence there. Stop tormenting yourself. Listen to Hassan. It's those are kind of mutually exclusive things. I can't not torment myself and listen to Hassan at the same time. They kind of tend to be one and the same. Listening to Hassan is unmitigated hell, but so the point that he's getting to is I'm right, you're wrong obsession you cannot get over. I don't know. I suppose that's sort of indicative of that fragile ego type of thing before.
I'm not going to endorse it. I'm not going to retweet it or like it. but fair enough.
I guess I just missed, my old friend.
What I saw is that Ethan is very much prone to anxiety and his resident habits. Oh, this is the same one.
Some wings are too bird feathered colored.
Now that brings
Bird
us
feathered.
to February 28th of this year. Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word.
It's funny that he said it's the C word. This is how far he's fallen. Where he used to, was it actually, what was the final content cop? Was that was the Rice Gum one? Was it right before that was Tana Mojo? I don't know which one it was, but one of the very recent ones, he was talking about slurs, and he was saying like, oh, the first time I said the word cunt, it was just, it's guttural. It felt so dirty, and now I say it so often that it doesn't mean anything to me now. And then he shows a compilation of him saying it, and it's like, well, now he's grown as a person. He's grown as a person, don't you see? He doesn't think that anymore. It's like, he can't even say the word anymore. Like, he's gone fully around the bend with it. It went from being like, oh, that's a nasty word, and then it was like, it was like, oh, maybe I'll say it a little bit, and then it was, I'm just saying it constantly, and I've said it so much now that it's lost all meaning. And he framed this as like irony, post irony. It's like, now he's at the point where it's offensive again. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of funny, because you used to say that there's sort of an arbitrary amount of power that is given to these words, and that is granted to these words, when actually you could take away the punch from the statement of it if you just didn't really give it any leniency. If you don't stoop to the level of the language in and of itself, then you deprive it of its punch. And it's like, look at you now. You're not even willing to repeat the words of another person, saying this person called this person a cunt. It's like, you can't even say that anymore. It's pathetic. Because of why? Because why? Because what does the word really mean, and what was meant by the word? It's not exactly obvious to anybody what words mean in any given context. Not particularly that word, not in the least that word, I suppose. But it's like, how do you think you're morally above us all when you're just judging people based on where they're from? First of all, you'll have Gallant is not a good guy. Palestinians don't learn to hate Jews at 2 years old. This is why I had this other tab up. I had this other tab, and it's quite interesting, because that's an interesting point, and it just sounds like a point that is made by a completely ignorant person, because even somebody who doesn't know, who hasn't been over there, has, someone who's been able to look up and do a couple of dives, knows that there is children's programming in the, state-funded children's programming in Palestine that is intended towards fostering hatred for Israel and the West as a whole. It's like, broadcast by the Hamas-affiliated television station from 13th April 2007 to 16th October 2009. You might recognize Farfor from some memes, because there were some funny memes with Farfor in it. Large costumed character, hosted by Sarah Baroum, discussing life in Palestine in a talk show fashion with call-ins from children typically aged 9 to 13 years old, with some as young as 3. It's like, interesting. Are they not taught from age 2? It's like, this is state-funded. Can you seriously say that in full confidence when this has existed? Granted, this is nearly 16 years ago now. Has it changed that much in 16 years that they no longer do any of this? Because, I'm not familiar with what's going on there right now. I just know about this, and this is just a particular example, but does it stand to reason? It's like, they're not taught from age 2. It's like, okay, I don't know, to whatever degree that you can learn things at age 2. I think the only things that you can learn at age 2 is whatever you're disciplined for, because you don't have a very good command of language yet, and you are almost certainly beginning to be very antisocial, because that happens at age 2 universally. Every single human being becomes immensely antisocial at age 2, and it doesn't go away unless it is unless it's sort of socialized out of them before it's too late, quote unquote. But it's like, you know, they don't teach them at age 2. It's like, I don't know what they teach at age 2. It's hard to teach a 2-year-old bloody anything. But from at least as young as 3, there are children calling into a children's program that is state-funded. And what's on it? Presented in a children's educational format similar to other preschool shows like Sesame Street or Barney and Friends, Tomorrow's Pioneers is highly controversial as it contains anti-Semitic, Islamist, anti-American, and other anti-Western themes. Israeli sources have characterized it as among the most serious of martyrdom operations. And of course, if you want to disregard every single Israeli source as a whole because you believe that Israel is evil, then absolutely you can do that. But, you know, there's only so much evidence that you can dismiss from certain sources until it just becomes you don't really care about the facts anymore. And I really do want to apply that principle both ways. If there is evidence that Israel, for example, is doing terrible things, or for example that there was a perfectly, this was the thing that I was saying earlier, because I don't want to pretend as though I'm saying something and then, you know, flipping it on its head in a different context. When I said earlier that Israel, you know, why might Israel stop aid from going in? Is it because that aid is actually going to people and, you know, innocent citizen non-combatants, or is it and that they just want them to die, or is it that they actually don't want those supplies to be useful to the terrorist effort? And it's like, well, is every single one of them like that? Or, you know, where do you draw the line? It's like, okay, I want to make it clear that that concept of I don't want to dismiss all evidence based off of the source thereof, but only when it suits my point. It's like I want the truth, really, and if it's inconvenient to Israel, then I don't really care, because I believe the truth sets you free. If it's inconvenient, I think if the truth is inconvenient to me personally, then I want it as good and as hard as I can get it, because it's going to redound to my benefit in the end. So in either direction, wherever I can apply that principle, I want the truth. And so, you know, are we going to dismiss Israel sources? Well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we do. The show also gained attention from Disney, who ordered that the first co-host Farfel be written out of the show due to his strong resemblance to Mickey Mouse. It's like, you know, I mean, that's just funny. Sarah Barum, hosted Tomorrow's Pioneers, was around 10 to 11 years old when the show started. It's like, okay, this is clearly a propagandistic effort that is aimed towards children. I don't think this is a defensible point, and it does not take much, you know, looking into it to actually understand that this type of thing has happened in the past, if not is currently happening right now. It's like, this is propaganda that is geared towards teaching the children that they are oppressed by their neighbors. I remember I read into this a little bit about her Uncle Khazim, high-pitched voiced. Far means mouse in Arabic. You and I are laying the foundation for a world led by Islamists. Isn't that something to be teaching children? We will return the Islamic community to its former greatness and liberate Jerusalem, God willing, liberate Iraq, God willing, and liberate all the countries of the Muslims invaded by the murderers. It's like, do you think that children should be fed this dogma? And I genuinely, it's like, I want to present this to some of the pathological people on the other side of the fence here. Is it's like, okay, so Christian religious fundamentalism. You're not big on that, right? And you don't want that to be taught to be taught to children, most particularly when the state is actually forcing it to be taught. Correct? Like we actually want as much truth as we can possibly get, and who exactly are you to know what the truth is? And so therefore we should just give a as truthful as a general idea about all of these different schools of thought as we can, and then trust that they'll gravitate towards the truth eventually, and they'll be attracted to the truth eventually. Because I think the truth is pretty attractive, frankly. But what's truthful about this? This just seems like ideological possession, and it's like in episode 103, he simulates shooting an AK-47 and throwing grenades, and that's what's happening here. It's like they're teaching the children that it's normal to walk around with guns to fire willy-nilly at people. It's like even if in America we generally or at least some people in America tend to like the idea that children should be accustomed to weaponry, and more particularly to the responsibility around owning firearms. It's like we're not going to go around being like, haha, we should like it's not the kind of thing that we like to cartoonishly present to children as like the example for what is normal. Before anyone objects to our program, we are trying to install in our children's memories the interest in the lifting of the siege on our people and the end of support for the usurper entity of our land and killing our children. The Palestinian people continue to struggle, not indifferent to such as are left with the executioner and victim. It's like, I don't know. That doesn't necessarily seem like something that children should be involved in, because they literally can't make a rational, you can't derive a rational conclusion from this. I think what this is it's an intentional cultural transformation. I suppose it's cultural hegemony, if you will, where it's just this pathological, dogmatic nonsense that if you can suck all of the air out of if air is truth, if you suck all the air out of it, then maybe the people will be desperate enough for oxygen that you can just simply say, here it is, this is what the truth is, simplify it for you, because it's just too complicated for you to be able to come to the right conclusion on, because truth, well, who needs truth when when we can just give you a distilled version of it so that you can come to the right conclusions, because I don't trust you to come to the right conclusions. It's like, I don't know, that seems a lot like that seems to be an attitude held in America, and it's not held by the Christians, at least not today, it seems, broadly. It's dogma. I'm not big on that. Anyhow, that's kind of all I've got to say about that. But it's like, oh no, I think that's the real issue here, is that it's like this is something that's just demonstrably false. Like, this is a little bit too broad of a statement to just unabashedly be spewing out on there. It's like, no, there is religious dogma being spewed out that's completely anti-intellectual and frankly anti-human in many ways. It's like they do kind of cater that directly to children, and children kind of don't know better, and so they probably are going to take the word of people that it's like, hey, it's normal to shoot people. It's like, great. These are our oppressors, don't you see? I don't know. Are we for or against propaganda here, Ian? Like, I'm not saying that Ian is responsible for this opinion. Obviously, Froggy is the only one responsible for his opinions, but I find that to be a little bit fascinating, frankly. That's the real issue. It's like, oh no, he said the C word. Oh no. It's like, no, he didn't make a very good intellectual case. Why are you getting hung up about the terminology? Like, I don't care if he called her a cunt. He may as well have just, they could have called her an idiot. And that doesn't matter, because it's like, well, we throw that one around, even though it's effectively doing the same thing, where it's like, oh, you're a dick, you're an asshole. It's like, there's so many different words that you can use to express disdain towards somebody. I don't know why it matters more when you use one that's a little more guttural or colorful. And this is what you used to believe, or at least what you used to say. I don't know. It's just an interesting inconsistency there.
He said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese and a bunch.
Oh yeah, this is, 2 years before Ethan's dog death, H3 fans voiced concerns for his chronic vomiting, pointed to kidney failure, got shunned by other fans. Ethan declined the advice, stayed course. Cheese's treats. Fast forward, the dog dies of kidney failure at 6 years old, lifespan around 13 years. I don't have enough context for this to know whether or not there's any legitimacy to that, but it seems like it's a fair enough statement to make, where it's like, hey, you didn't understand that this dog doesn't work that way, and you probably should give it some feed that is a little bit more suited for watch your dog's diet and that type of thing. It's like, I don't know. I'm not a veterinarian, and I doubt that he is. It's like, well, probably Froggy and I are probably both a little bit better at video editing than we are at anything to do with caring for animals.
Other shit, I'm sure. Ethan,
I don't know. Ultra-trapidarianism is not the sin there. Like, I don't even know if there's even a sin there at all. It's just like, maybe he is talking a little bit out of his field of expertise, sure, but it's like, I don't know. In the broad scheme of things, I don't think I'd get hung up on that so much as getting hung up on him. I don't know. Perhaps it's the same sin. It's like, in one situation you're kind of just talking out your ass, and then in the other situation you're doing the same thing. It's just this one has global consequences, and you called somebody a cunt, which obviously we can't have that. I don't know. Just seems a little bit of an interesting thing. It's like, oh, he implied that he killed his own dog. It's like, I don't know. Why? What does this matter in context? I just don't really see how that makes Froggy a terrible person, or it's like, oh yeah, disown those statements. I don't know. I don't
some
really
point
care.
Discovers that iDubbbz's former editor.
I think this is funny. Creator Clash has edited Flames Healer for radicalizing Ethan with Israeli propaganda, and that's what I have a loving family. I know what it takes to take care of infants and toddlers, and obsessing over a past coworker who doesn't give a flying F about you during the holidays ain't it. I don't. Oh, this is about Hassan, I guess. He had everything, but he had to let narcissism or Hila to take hold of his paradise, and it's saying that it's like Hila radicalized Ethan. It's like, okay, Ethan lived in Israel. He probably picked up a lot of the things that he's thinking in Israel, because, believe it or not, even the left side of Israel is pretty pro like Netanyahu, and a lot of they're kind of pro the war, because the war was actually declared on Hamas and not on Palestine, because they don't recognize Palestine as an entity. They I don't know, it's like, most people don't want terrorist neighbors, and I think that's fair enough. And so they kind of are united on that issue, because, believe it or not, everybody there tends to kind of bloody agree with not having terrorist neighbors. And I think that's the way that it tends to be. I think idealistically speaking, that's the way that all government should be. It's gridlock unless everybody can agree on it. And the parliamentary system doesn't really help with a lot of that, because it's not really designed for gridlock so much as it's designed for a prattling. But like, I don't know, it's like, you should only be able to do something that everyone can agree on, and then, if nobody can agree on it, after that situation's been resolved, then it should, revert back to whatever it was before. Like, I like the idea of the government not being able to do bloody anything unless everybody agrees with it, because then nobody ends up getting it's that word again that I've forgotten what the bloody word is, but dispossessed, Is that what I'm looking for? It's like, listen to those who disagree with you, and if you refuse to listen, then you don't get to, 51% does not get to tyrannize 49%. And it's like, when the going gets really tough, and when someone's currently going against you, your entire nation, everybody ends up being like, okay, I think we're pretty set on what we ought to do about this in the very least. And it's like, everyone should be able to agree. Well, no, because I don't want to be one of these stupid idealistic fools. It's like, I think everyone does agree that they would rather leave each other alone than to go to war with people. If you can agree to leave each other alone, that's the best case scenario. Anyhow, this is getting a bit long, isn't it? Radicalizing Ethan. It's like, yeah. I think sort of the thought process that I had about this argument was, either you're going to infantilize Ethan because Ethan can't come to his own conclusions, apparently. I don't think he's particularly good at coming to his own conclusions in any case. It's like, I wouldn't choose Ethan as my champion if I were to want somebody to make a stunning intellectual case for me, or for any matter for that matter. It's like, if you want somebody who's going to like totally school you on Israel, then it's like, I don't know, choose either a politician who well, I don't know, politicians. Be careful about choosing politicians, but it's like, choose someone who is decent at making a case. And I don't know, I'd choose Ben Shapiro over Ethan Klein if it was like, okay, make the case for Israel's existence or something. It's like, Ethan would probably say a couple of true things, but wouldn't really string together a very cogent case for it. Whereas like Ben is a lot more versed in that. I don't know. At the same time, it's like, what do I know, really? I don't know. Anyhow, I like this, how it's like, take a screenshot and then it's in a quote tweet. Well, it's like you're quote tweeting across a platform with a screenshot. So it's like, just CC2, and yes, I'll double down. I watched Ethan and Hila Klein for 10 years. I loved that show. No one else but them to blame for the current insanity. I don't know. I feel like this is kind of one of those pathological things, and maybe I got a little bit sidetracked with this earlier, but it's like, there's no one else to blame. It's like, accountability is only applicable to my enemies, and no responsibility or accountability is applicable to the people who are not my enemies. It's like, I'll shrug about everything until I hate the person who I'm talking about, and then I'll make a moral case, and I'll try my best to make a good moral case about it. But it's like, other than that, don't really care. It's like, sweet, cool, glad to know where your loyalties lie. We all know Ethan is unchecked. We've seen it on so many eps. You refuse to let go. You were in an abusive relationship with H3. Use better grammar, folks. But I don't know. I feel like you were tuning it out when it was happening for the past like 4 or 5 years in comparison. But then the same person who posted this then posted it again. Creative Clash 2's editor doubling down on calling Hila a cunt, blames her for radicalizing Ethan. It's like, let me double down on like, I love this, like, multiple layers rubbish.
Says this horrendous shit about him and Hila.
Oh,
but
it's
no
just
one's
horrendous,
asking the
isn't it?
question, where does Ethan get this information from? You see, it would be very obviously a problem if Ethan was discovering this content by scrolling through Twitter looking for something to upset himself with. He has made...
It's funny because, like, that's just so common to see. But, like, I don't know. It only matters now that he's gone up against the mob. It's like, he got all this information from, like, all these bad places. He's never had good information. He's never made a good case.
Maybe set it up in such a way where his employees feel the need to send him this information. And that would be horrible. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be sending you things that are entertaining for your show that don't fucking trigger the hell out of you. Why is there so much...
That's actually a good point that I think I disregarded earlier, but I want to make it to a second good point before I finish. Yeah, it's like, this is probably a better idea for your show to not, like, be constantly pissed off when you... That's not exactly the point of the show, is to, you know, be pissed off and political constantly. It's like, yeah, don't derail the... I don't know, it's easy enough to derail that show, but...
work being put into discovering this guy on Twitter who's barely getting any interactions, linking him to
Froggy?
me and posting on the Reddit, when there's no work being put into who the fuck is the person on the Reddit who's posting this in the first place.
This is interesting. He was talking about where he's getting his information from. Is the idea here, like, is the point that he's making that this is an attempt to sabotage the relationship between Ian and Ethan, or, you know, to stir up some drama or something like that, and that's the only reason why they're linking Froggy to Ethan? Linking Froggy to Ian, and being like, hey, this is somebody that Ian follows, and it's like, I don't know, follows don't equal endorsements and never have, never will, like, grow up, like, I don't know. But I don't know why it necessarily matters who's going out of their way to find this information, because it's just information and nothing more. It's, I don't know, Creator Clash 2's editor was a H3 fan. Like, I don't know, people have bloody opinions, and they aren't always like public about them, and some people are more like it. I don't know. It just seems like well, what is the motivation, I suppose, and this is what it's.
If you do a little bit of research, it seems like it's an account whose intention is to...
I didn't even notice that he had like a bloody gold tooth or a silver tooth or whatever. That's interesting. Is that a prop?
make Ethan crash out. One of the users...
Make Ethan crash out. This terminology, this newfangled TikTok terminology you young whippersnappers use.
Users on the Snark Reddit points...
Oh yeah. Lifelong Destiny fan who deleted his post history and started solely posting on the H3 prod as a few months ago to manipulate that community. It's like the head mod of Destiny's harassment group, apparently. I didn't know Destiny had a harassment group. I thought he was just a prick who mouthed off online about all sorts of nonsense. Okay, well, I don't want to be completely dismissive. I think Destiny is intelligent but not wise, and that kind of goes along with what I was talking about earlier.
This out. They're like, I've seen this account before. This account has scraped its history, and it's now trying to make Ethan burn bridges. This is within Ethan's...
Is that the point of that? Because just because you go and are critical of somebody who is a friend of somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you want the... It's like... Icarus sees Froggy, knows Froggy's connected to Ian, and knows Ian and Ethan are friends, and knows that Ethan is being criticized by Froggy in a way that isn't entirely fair, and so he's going to go and find Froggy's tweets to say, hey, look at Froggy. Froggy was associated with Ian, therefore it's like, what? Like, if Ethan is a mature adult, and you know, evidence on that is scanty at best, then he's not going to respond to that by assuming that Ian is responsible for what Froggy tweets. I mean, that should go without saying.
His own community.
Like, if you fall for that, then I feel like you deserve that. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think everyone deserves everything that happens to them. And yes, I'm willing to push that as far as it possibly goes, including myself, including and especially myself, actually, because that's where accountability turns into power, and personal power over your own life, responsibility. It's kind of nice, and I prefer it even in the darkest of times. But regardless, It's like, yeah, I think if you fall for such foolish trickery, then you kind of deserve to fall for that. Like, you deserve whatever consequences will happen as a result. It's just a little bit silly. It's a really silly little ploy. And I don't know if you're going to lay that at the feet of destiny. I don't know. I thought there would be a little bit more camaraderie between him and Destiny, honestly, but I don't know. Whoops.
Like, this is the thing that he needs to be critical of. It's not me. So yes, I am willing to admit that my former editor was being very nasty, uncharitable, and fucked up towards...
Uncharitable, yes. Very nasty, I don't think so. Like, nastiness is just a flavor. I don't really think that there was anything in there that was especially egregious. He wasn't wishing death on people, like, not even like by proxy or anything. He was denying that there was a, significant Islamist, state-funded influence towards children. And I don't know if that has ramifications, but I would rather chalk that up to incompetence before I'd attribute that to malevolence, as is Hanlon's razor. So it's like, what else did he do? He said, "Oh, you killed your dog because you fed him too much cheese." I don't really bloody care. It's just it seems like a mistake that anybody could make, and it's like, well, they were irresponsible and they bear the brunt of that, and I don't know, like, if that's the case, hypothetically. If it's not the case, then it's like, it sounds like something that someone ignorant could say, but I feel like you could be forgiven for being ignorant on that. Perhaps you should be a little more careful about what you mouth off about, but it's like, that's not particularly nasty. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Perhaps if you regard the dog as a integral, is that a difficult word, or am I melting my brain? Integral bloody family member, maybe it's like, I don't know. Is that tantamount to like bloody Alex Jones saying that the whatever, I don't want to get banned, it's like paid actors type of thing? Is it like where exactly on the level of nastiness is that? I don't really care necessarily how nasty or how unnasty it is. And then it's like he called someone a cunt, which is just saying like, I don't like you, is effectively all that's saying. Like, there's nothing really behind that all that much. I don't know. I don't think he said that because he was a bigot or something. It's just a little bit odd. I think he's being unnecessarily charitable to the points that Icarus was making. It's like he was making weak points as well. His points were possibly weaker than Froggy's, but they were funnier at least. So you got to give him credit for that. At least the way that he presented it was funny.
Towards Ethan and Hila on Twitter, but Ethan and Hila are doing the same shit on their podcast. So I don't want to fucking hear it.
Terrorist supporter.
The CEO of Twitch.
Pedophile.
Now I'm going to watch.
Yeah. I don't know if I have anything more to say about that. Like, Ethan is... Well, what I have to say about it is that where the hell were you the past 4 bloody years? Because he's done it with everybody under the sun. And you just only care now that it has to do with some sort of issue that has gripped all of these strange people in America by the balls for whatever reason. It's like, alrighty. Yeah, certainly.
Watch and respond to the 2 podcast streams where Ethan and Hila call us spineless cowards.
Anyway, this guy was saying shit like that Hila's a Nazi, that she kills kids, that she went on like, she's at...
Wait, Froggy said that? Did we are we going to get a little bit of pop-ups with the context of him saying that there, just to bolster his point? Because this is how you understand, like, are you actually coming down to the truth? Because what iDubbbz or iDubbbz editor could do right now is could pop up what he's referring to, or at least allegedly referring to, and it's like, I don't know, just to see, it's like, okay, how much of what he's saying is true, just to be fair to his side of the aisle here, because you don't have to make as much of a case. If you're trying to get down to the truth, then you're gonna find it. You're gonna have a much better case made, and I think you'll actually know what you're talking about at that point, because that's actually part of the fun part about this entire, you know, segment. Is it a segment? It's a bloody hours long exploration, but it's like I get to kind of go on this journey where it's like, well, where is the truth here? And a lot of it is going to be question marks, but it's trying to get to the truth ends up getting you to a much better place in the end, instead of just, you know, I don't know, that I wish there would be a little more context
like
here.
IDF baby killer, all this types of shit, and that's showing up right up on us Nisa's and iDubbbz's feed.
He doesn't know that. There's no bloody way that he knows that it's showing up on their feed, because most well, Ian's gonna make the point.
My friends who I stood by after all these fucking years can't find a spine to speak up. You know why? Because they'll get murdered.
You don't know what's on my feed. What the fuck is happening? For all you know,
Yep.
I only use the For You tab. For all you know, I only use lists. For all you know, I'm seeing these things tweeted out by my editor of a year and a half ago and saying, God, that is nasty. I'm just not going to throw someone away because they're having a parasocial weird moment. Just like I'm not going to throw Ethan Klein away because he's having a parasocial weird crash out.
How many women I fucked?
And that is the main point here. Like he's going to get a little bit more into it, but I think that's the first like really good cogent point. That's like, hey, there's something really good there. Enough truth that it's like, you know, it stands up above like something like he really likes the state of Israel. It's like, what? Versus like, people are not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. People don't want to sacrifice people over disagreements when reasonable minds can, you know, disagree, but also to understand about that. It's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to condemn somebody permanently and ban them from my life or what have you because we disagreed on this topic and because I thought that was a nasty thing to say. I can actually wait a little bit longer, and maybe they will be okay anyway, or maybe they'll see the error of their ways, or maybe it's not even ready for an intervention where it's like, all right, just sort of a shrug as you continue along. Maybe that eventually whittles its way out, or you know, it's just that's a good standard, and it's nice to see that there's at least a little nugget of gold in this so far.
Hassan, by the way, thousands. Yeah, thousands. Let me ask Galia. These shoes do not go. I'm sorry. Oh my God. Hassan's the type of dude who watches himself in the mirror when he has sex.
Watching me on a 30.
I don't know what that is supposed to mean. Like, what even is that nonsense point? Like, this is the thing about Ethan, is that it's like, it's funny. Then he finds somebody who he's frustrated with, or that he despises in some kind of way, and it's like, okay, all bets are off. I'm just gonna go for the throat, and it's like, ugh, it's just kind of pathetic because he doesn't make a good case. He just waffles. He just flounders, and it's pretty petulant, I'd say.
Second delay on your stream.
Wait, how does he know I'm watching already?
Because you've been talking about it for the last 5 minutes.
It's not a fucking petty beef. It's like, this guy is evil and he's doing anti-Semitism. These shoes.
I just had a very deep thought about that, but I don't know how much longer I'm willing to go on about it. I suppose in brief, I was thinking like the degree to which you feel as though a beef is petty is the degree of cynical superiority that you feel towards the circumstance in a sense. Or maybe I put that as some people have enough insight that other people's problems that seem really big to them are not very big in comparison to the deep understanding that they've got. I don't know. I don't think I've thought enough about that in order to be able to explain that in a very coherent way. But I don't know. Petty. It seems pretty petty, but I think it's more because you don't know how to make a decent moral case for or against anything, and therefore you should probably either, when it comes to charged issues, you should do your absolute hardest to be able to find the truth in it and then to explain it, or to present your case, to make your case as airtight as possible, or you ought to keep that out of the public light, because it catches up to you. I don't know. No one ever gets away with anything.
Choose to not go. I'm sorry.
There are many people, I'm sure, who have unfollowed you
I love this point.
for the things that you've said and done. And I'm sure there are even more people who have stayed following you because they don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
See, I really like that point, because that's kind of where I'm at, where I don't... It's like I'm, on the cliff here a little bit, where it's like I really don't appreciate the vast majority of things that you have to say, and it's hard to watch because it's just constant ideological possession, and it's not very intellectually rigorous. You don't really know why you believe what you believe. I don't think you believe it definitionally. I think you think it with the wrong part of your brain, perhaps, but you don't believe it with every sense of your being. It's just lip service to you that makes you feel superior to those who you disagree with. I suppose that's kind of what how ideological possession tends to manifest itself a lot of the time. But, that's exactly where I'm at, where it's like, I want to see where you end up. And maybe that's me just being like, okay, let's keep on watching the train crash because it's entertaining, or maybe it's just, I don't know what exactly it is, but that's the point that I was wanting to get to.
They don't want to throw someone away because they've had some hard moments. We're all fucking human.
My good fucking friends who I stood by after all these fucking years can't find a spine to speak up. You know why? Because they'll get murdered.
And what you're...
I don't know, it just seems like this is what happens when you're applying positive rights to everything, is that you just become a professional victim. It's like, my friends won't defend me, and it's like, what do they have to gain from defending you against what you perceive as an attack? What do they have to lose from it? It's like, well, just because they gain your alliance doesn't necessarily mean that they did so in a way that will be maximally beneficial to them and everyone within their circle. It's like, if it's not beneficial to the people that you know, then it probably won't redound to your benefit either, because it's like, no, that's more of a positive rights way to look at it. I think I see it as, if it's maximally beneficial to you, then it will be maximally beneficial to everyone. If you are applying that standard over time, that's sort of the objectivist, or at least my conception of the main objectivist tenet there. But regardless, it's like, what does Ian have to gain from creating a drama, either loudly or quietly, about this topic? It's like, I don't know, I feel like Ethan's been missing out on some of the normal things that are I don't know. I don't know. Like, what causes somebody to kind of behave so erratically? And it may just be an insistence on positive rights. Like, Lord knows that's very destructive, but it's like, I am entitled as a friend of theirs to their defense at any given moment, and for them to condemn something, but it's also not their fault because the mob is going to come after them. And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't necessarily, I don't think you should necessarily care what the mob is going to do, because I think telling the truth is often valuable enough to outweigh the damage that the mob can do to you. I don't know.
You're saying to me is that I'm a bad friend and I'm a piece of shit. I'm spineless. I'm cowardly because I am following someone on Twitter.
Because they have mobilized such an insane harassment group. It's not bad enough that I have this group of people harassing me and everyone.
It seems to me like he just doesn't like it when the mob is against him. Like, this is actually what it seems like, and I don't know exactly how much I expected to be disagreeing with whom in this video, but it really does seem like, well, it was nice when the mob was on my side. Why isn't the mob on my side anymore? Because I'm perfectly willing to exact harassment campaigns over Twitter, of all things, and to say a perfect amount of nasty things to people, and to encourage nasty things to be said by anyone who I can convince to do so. I think that's fair game, frankly. If you do that, then it's like, well, whatever. Like, the truth is going to come out whether or not you do it. So I don't think I'm necessarily. It's like, okay, whatever. We'll see how it goes. How's that working out for you? But it's, well, that's the answer, is that this is how it's working out for him. Is one day the mob turns against you because you turned, well, does the mob, yeah, the mob turned against you because you turned against the mob. You didn't realize that the mob was no longer with you where you stood, and you just thought, well, why didn't you stay with me? Why didn't you come with me into this area that I was going to go down? And it's like, well, it's because you went against them fundamentally, and you sided with the mob so many times. And you were happy to side with the mob so many times. And you praised the mob for what they did. And you aided and abetted them in multiple occasions. And now when they turn on you, it's like, well, you're supposed to be on my side. It's like they were never on your side. They were never on the side of anything good or decent if they didn't care about the truth. And you were with them at one point. And, you know, you haven't done enough seeking of the truth in order to actually be protected from it, or from the pathology that you've assisted in raising up. So it's like, well, you deserve everything that's coming to you when you do that.
In my life, it's that people outside of this group, journalists, creators, are actively participating in this gaslighting to make it seem like I'm fucking crazy.
I mean, I don't know what he's getting at here. Like, yeah, people are gaslighting you. A lot of people gaslit me when I apologized. That was actually like the number one type of harassment I got, was people gaslighting me and taking my newfound woke ideology to its extreme.
What is he getting at? It's really disappointing to see you continue to perpetuate stereotypes of woodland squirrels, especially after seeing your apology. I thought you would have learned something, but I guess you're just grifting the whole time.
I probably done and stood by
I don't know.
and Anissa more than anybody. I've stood by them when all the internet hated them.
I don't
see, and that's the thing. It's like you want to go for like the altruistic approach here. It's like, was it truly altruistic for you to stick by them if now you expect them to stick by you in return? It's like, no, you're not pro-trade, you're pro-sacrifice, and so you sacrifice for them. You shouldn't be upset that they didn't sacrifice for you in return. You should turn the other cheek and continue to sacrifice for them. That's what you want to do. If that's what you believe with altruism, it's like, I think it's just, you know, positive and negative rights. I'll pick whichever one is most convenient to me at the time. you know, if it's you know, it's negative rights until things go wrong for me, and then it's positive rights where somebody ought to be taking care of my own problems. It's like you really ought not to be picking and choosing those at will, and I think that's why we ought to be talking about positive rights. Well, we ought to be emphasizing the difference between positive and negative rights more, because positive rights are inherently suicidal and negative rights are not, frankly. But that's a case to be made for another day. So that's basically the long and short of where I did not get anywhere close to as quickly as I hoped to at the beginning of this. So if that's not indicative of what this is, then I don't know what is. So that's basically the long and short of it. I suppose in this episode I ended up being a little less anti-Ian, though I'm sure some issues are on the horizon as we continue. So perhaps I'll continue this another day. But for now, well, perhaps I'll next time I'll do it so that I've got some weird funny Ian meme. It's like I've got the other guy. We've got an Ian Soyjack meme, and maybe next time we'll have one for Ethan as well, and maybe it'll go the opposite direction where I'm a little more critical of Ian that time. So we'll see how it goes. Anyhow, thanks to the people who joined in. I shall continue this. Gosh, it's like I didn't really enjoy a lot of the exploration here. It's difficult because in sort of every other moment I'm finding it difficult to be like, oh well, that's an assumption that I'm making. It's like, okay, but eventually you just have to write your entire argument every 10 seconds out in standard form, where it's like, okay, here are the premises that I'm assuming to be true so far. Like, I don't know, eventually you just have to cut your losses, which is exactly why I ended up going so long, is because I tend to refuse to do so. So I bear the consequences, and I bear the weight of all of that decision. So anyhow, that's the way to be. Goodbye, and see ya. I suppose. Is this a thing? I don't believe it. Where's the button that buttons? E.